Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, we're turning our attention now to what you just saw, the revenue initiative of the federal government. We've got Vincent Wani, who is the head of research for the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, looking through this, they were speaking at that strategic revenue growth initiative, talking about, yes, FG may have to increase VAT for specific items. I know that they've talked about this for a while now. And then we have this huge funding challenge for the 2018 budget. But in this particular context, how do you see this playing out?
For me, I'm in line with the need that they thought that Nigeria need to really expand our revenue base. You know, at least that will help us reduce our fiscal deficit. We're borrowing well over 2 trillion every year to fund our budget. 2019 budget proposed is about 8.8 billion naira expenditure, and the total projected revenue is just around over 6 trillion, and that is from oil and non-oil. And of course, you know how much we can depend on oil because we don't control everything, whether it's the price or quantity produced. You know, so we need to really do something. And a country of about 200 million people, talking about 8.8 trillion naira is still very, very small. So we need to do something about our revenue base. So I subscribe with the Minister of Finance and all the heads of revenue agencies to really look inward and see how we can expand our revenue base. But the starting point, which are the low-hanging fruit, is to even look at what we're doing right now. You know, you hear from reports that institutions such as FRS, yes, Federal Inland Revenue Service, generated about 5 trillion last year. You know, customs generated almost 1 trillion. If you add oil revenue, we sold at well over $60 per barrel on the average throughout the year. So you find out that the deficit we are talking about will disappear if all of this actually came in. So that's a challenge. Yeah, we really need to provide some transparency in what we're even doing.
Yeah, but can all of them actually coming the way people say it will come in? Because they also have overheads that they need to sort out from those same funds.
Yeah, but the statutory requirement is that these revenue agencies should be able to remit at least minimum of 80% of their collection. So we're talking about under collection and under, can I say, under remittance from the revenue agencies.
Under remittance or unaccounted for?
Unaccounted for, under remittance from the revenue agencies.
But it goes to the TSA,
yeah, it goes to...
So how is that under remittance?
Well, it goes to TSA, but a whole lot of things happen. If you look at NNPC, and I'm shocked, NNPC is not even covered by the clip we just watched. Over 1 trillion on yearly basis is spent on subsidy. And if you even also look at under recovery, that is about 1.4 trillion. If you add under recovery to that, these are monies that are not even appropriated.
But
there is no transparency around that.
Well, can you actually can you associate that with monies that are unaccounted for?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. That the starting point, before we even talk about other sources of revenue, is to see our standpoint now. How much transparent, how much efficient, how much corruption are we removing out of what we're doing right now? If we clean up our current system, of course, we start making savings.
Taxation system?
Well, there are corruption everywhere, not just in taxation system. I spoke about NNPC now. How are we spending 1 trillion naira or more without appropriation? Who is auditing what? How much information is out there for public and the citizens of this country to see? These are the areas we need to start from. And I think we need to really begin to give more thought about full deregulation of the oil and gas industry.
One of the things that's also been touted by government officials is that there are a significant number of people who are not yet in the tax bracket. Do you think they are anyway in consideration of what the government is talking about now?
Yeah, that's correct. But the number of people or businesses that are not in the tax net doesn't still solve our problem. You know, it doesn't still, because what we've seen over the last few years is using tax and other ease of doing business challenges to even kill the tax base. A lot of that are really meant for, in our own terms here, the common man on the street. Of course, I know government will be ready to give it a more accommodative.
How is this likely to affect the small and medium enterprises? because they will have to bear some brunt.
That is the challenge. You know, small and medium enterprise start in 5 years, in 10 years, they've disappeared. You know, a lot of businesses go on. I read something published by is in Nasema yesterday that over the last 3 years, 800 businesses, God knows the sizes, whether small, and it's even difficult to monitor small business because sometimes you can't trace them. So these 800 companies over the last 3 years are actually the businesses that you can see, you can trace, and you can contact. You know, these are what we're seeing. So small businesses start and they die. Small businesses start and they die within few
You're saying
few
in
years.
effect that
So
there is no environment, no atmosphere for them to grow?
the atmosphere is not very much conducive. If you are talking about being able to export or import, it's a challenge. You need about 30 signatures to export and about 18 signatures to import in the country. The port road is an issue, the port warehouse, and everything about port. Somebody said this morning that over the last 5 months, the queues have been constant on our port routes in Lagos. We have just one port in Lagos, and other ports in the Niger Delta areas are not working. Government know about all of this. We've been talking about this for so long. The ease of doing business regarding being able to get credit at the right time, at the right rate, is still these are challenges. Businesses cannot easily walk into bank and get credit at a reasonable rate, you know, for commercial banks, all in between 25 to 30%. For the small banks, that's the microfinance bank, as much as 60%. What type of business can a small business do with those type of rates?
Now, you've gone over and over about this ease of doing business thing, and it's, you know, perhaps valid, but there are rules for the private sector, there are rules for government. I am aware that the Office of the Vice President has done a lot of work in that regard, and that's kind of improved the ease of doing business rating of Nigeria for some significant number of steps. But in which way can the private sector, which you operate in, really help this ease of doing business thing? Because there is a limit to what legislation government can do in that regard.
Government will take the lead. You know, the PEBEC, the Presidential Ease of Doing Business Council, under the leadership of the Vice President, you know, they've been able to manage the Ease of Doing Business indicator from Nigeria being number 169 out of 185 countries. World Bank Ease of Doing Business indicator 2007 to Nigeria being 145. No, but last year, which is 2008, we slided back by 1 foot. Our target was to move up to 100, 20, every 20 steps towards 1 every year. You know, but again, what did we move in? On that score, we recorded about 20 points from just ease of getting credit. Are SMEs and private sector easier? Is it easier for us to get credit? The answer is no. What was called is just the reform about businesses and individuals being able to get credit using their movable assets and government establishing credit registry. These are outcome, or these are effort. But in terms of real outcome that we can see that people are able to take credit from banks, from other agencies, is not as easy as that. So nothing really changed.
One last one from me for now. Talk about the human interface in the system. That's an issue. You will agree with us.
Sure.
How do we